Today I want to tell you about Celeste, a 25-year-old woman from Portland, Oregon, who had an encounter that changed everything she thought she knew about her walk with God. She describes what happened to her as starting like a dream, but it was more vivid, more tangible, more real than anything she'd ever experienced in her waking life. What she saw was the rapture, and what she discovered there were chains keeping people from heaven, chains that many of us are wearing right now without even realizing it. I considered myself a good Christian woman. I attended church when it fit my schedule, prayed before meals, and volunteered at the local food bank twice a month. I had built what looked like a successful life, a corner office, a growing career, the kind of achievements that make people nod with approval. But I was living beyond my means, buying things I didn't need to impress people who didn't care, filling my life with everything except what truly mattered. The encounter began one ordinary night. I fell asleep in my bed and found myself standing in my bedroom, but something was different. The air around me shimmered with a golden light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Then I heard it, a sound like a trumpet, powerful and clear, reverberating through my entire being. I felt an incredible lightness, as if gravity had released its hold on me, and I began to float upward. My ceiling simply disappeared, replaced by a sky painted in colors I couldn't name, colors that don't exist in our earthly palette. An overwhelming sense of joy and peace flooded through me, and I thought, this is it. I'm going home. But then I was yanked back down hard. The impact knocked the breath from my lungs. I looked down and saw heavy chains wrapped around my ankles made of a dark, tarnished gold. Each link was etched with words: greed, lust, unforgiveness, pride. The weight of them was crushing. I tried to move, tried to fly upward again, but the chains held me in place, suspended between earth and heaven, belonging fully to neither. That's when I realized I wasn't alone. There were others, hundreds, maybe thousands, floating at different heights, and every single person had chains. Some were closer to the ground than I was, weighed down by thick, heavy links. Others were higher, with only thin threads holding them back. But everyone was bound by something. What struck me most was how people responded to their chains. Some fought against them violently, pulling and struggling, but even as they fought, their hands clutched the very chains they were trying to break. I saw a woman with a chain labeled materialism, frantically trying to break free while simultaneously counting money in her hands, unable to let the bills scatter to the wind. I saw a man with chains marked anger and bitterness, pulling at the links while muttering under his breath about everyone who had ever wronged him, rehearsing his grievances even as he claimed he wanted freedom. But then I saw something different. An elderly man with chains labeled fear and worry simply opened his hands. The moment he released his grip, the chains dissolved like smoke, and he shot upward, his face radiant with joy. A young mother held chains of guilt and shame, tears streaming down her face. When she finally accepted forgiveness, really accepted it, her chains fell away and she rose freely toward the light. A radiant being appeared beside me, an angel with eyes full of compassion but also profound sadness. I asked the only question that mattered: why am I stuck here? The angel's response cut through me like a blade. Many believed, but their chains were dearer to them than their God. I protested immediately, but I believe, I've always believed. The angel looked at me with those ancient, knowing eyes and asked quietly, "Do you?" Then I saw myself as I truly was, not the version I presented to the world, not the story I told myself, but the raw, unfiltered truth. I watched myself calculating profits at the expense of my employees, justifying every cut that hurt them because it benefited my bottom line. I saw myself at church not worshiping but networking, collecting contacts instead of encountering God. I witnessed myself refusing to forgive my sister for a mistake made 5 years ago, holding on to that grudge like a treasured possession. I saw the endless shopping, buying things to fill a void that only God could fill. I watched myself look down on people who were struggling, judging their poverty as evidence of their lack of ambition. I saw my Bible, opened dutifully each morning but read like a checklist item, words passing through my eyes without ever reaching my heart. The angel spoke again, and his words shattered my defenses. You believed in your mind, but belief that doesn't transform the heart is not the belief that sets souls free. I looked down at my chains with new understanding. The greed chain connected me to my bank accounts, my investments, my constant worry about money and status. The lust chain bound me to impure thoughts, inappropriate relationships, and a pattern of using people for my own satisfaction. The unforgiveness chain was the heaviest. It had my sister's name on it, but also my ex-husband's, a former business partner's, my mother's, even a college roommate who had betrayed my trust a decade ago. The pride chain wrapped around everything else, feeding my need to be right, to be seen as successful, to never admit weakness or fault. How do I break free? I asked desperately. The angel's answer was simple and terrifying. Let go. I wanted to. God knows I wanted to. But fear rose up inside me like a wave. If I let go of greed, how would I survive? If I released unforgiveness, didn't that mean those people got away with what they did? If I surrendered my pride, who would I be without my achievements and status? These chains had become part of my identity. They felt like protection, like strength, like the very things that made me who I was. The angel asked me another question, one that echoed through eternity. What does it profit a woman if she gains the whole world but loses her soul? I looked down and realized something shocking. I wasn't just held by the chains, I was gripping them with both hands. My fingers were white-knuckled, clutching the very things that imprisoned me. All this time I'd thought the chains were holding me, but the truth was I was holding the chains. My mind went to Jesus, who gave up everything, glory, power, his very life to set me free. I thought about my grandmother, who had died 2 years earlier. That woman had nothing by the world's standards, lived in a tiny apartment, wore the same 3 dresses, but she had possessed a joy that made everyone around her feel lighter. She had been truly free. I loosened my grip on the greed chain first. It hurt. It felt like losing a part of myself. But the moment I opened my hand, a rush of freedom flooded through me unlike anything I'd ever experienced. The chain fell away and I rose a few feet higher. The second chain, lust, was harder to release. It had brought pleasure, had made me feel desired and powerful. But I thought about the damage it had caused, the people I'd hurt, the way it had poisoned my ability to love purely. I let go, and peace replaced the pleasure. The unforgiveness chain was the hardest. It required me to forgive my sister for words spoken in anger, to forgive my ex-husband for betrayal, to forgive the business partner who stole from me, to forgive my mother for childhood wounds I'd been nursing for decades. Each forgiveness felt impossible until I actually spoke it, and then the impossibility dissolved. One by one I released them all, and as I did, the heaviest chain crumbled. Finally, the pride chain. This one demanded I release my false identity, my need to be admired and respected, my carefully constructed image. When I let it go, I expected to feel diminished. Instead, I discovered who I really was, not a title or a bank account or an achievement, but a beloved daughter of God. All 4 chains dissolved simultaneously, turning to golden dust that scattered in the wind, and I shot upward at a speed that took my breath away. I heard music, voices singing in perfect harmony, a sound so beautiful it made me weep. Then I woke up in my regular bedroom. Everything looked the same furniture, same walls, same morning light streaming through the window. But I was different. That was 6 months ago. I want you to know I'm not claiming perfection. I still catch myself slipping into old patterns, still feel the weight of those chains trying to wrap around my ankles again. But now I recognize them forming and I make the choice to let go. Freedom isn't a one-time achievement. It's a daily decision, sometimes a moment-by-moment one. Every morning I ask myself what chains I'm tempted to pick up that day, and I choose to leave them on the ground. Here's what I want you to understand. Those chains aren't as strong as they seem. They feel heavy because we give them weight. They feel permanent because we refuse to open our hands. God wants us free now, not just in some future heaven. The freedom Jesus died to give us isn't just a promise for eternity. It's an invitation for today, for this moment. What are you holding on to? What chains have you clutched for so long that they've become part of your identity? Is it bitterness that feels justified because you really were wronged? Is it greed disguised as security? Is it pride dressed up as self-respect? Is it lust masked as freedom? Whatever it is, whatever you're gripping with white knuckles, I'm telling you what the angel told me. Let go. Yes, it's scary. Yes, you don't know what comes next. But consider what you're trading. The familiar weight of bondage for the terrifying joy of freedom. Fear of the unknown shouldn't sentence you to the misery of the known. Don't let your chains be dearer to you than your God. Jesus already paid the price for your freedom. The question is whether you'll accept it fully, not just in theory but in practice, not just in your mind but in your daily choices. Will you release what's holding you back? Will you open your hands, If this testimony has stirred something in your spirit, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel if you want more testimonies that challenge comfortable Christianity. And call us to the radical freedom God intended. But most importantly, get alone with God today and ask Him to show you your chains. Ask Him for the courage to let go. Pray for the grace to forgive, to release, to surrender. Remember, God's kingdom is for the free. Not the perfect, not the polished, not the people who have it all together, but the free. The ones who've dropped their chains and risen with empty hands and full hearts. Are you ready to let go?